This video is brought to you by SimpliSafe. More about them later in the video. Well, ladies and gents, here we are. We're back. Mid-engine Eclipse is back. Does this setup look familiar? We got a bunch of engine parts. We've got an engine on the engine stand. We've got some forged pistons, an oil pump, and our new engine block. In case you missed it, we've gone through 3 motors on the mid-engine Eclipse now. This one's the fourth time's the charm. This one, instead of buying a used one off Facebook Marketplace or having some rando off Facebook Marketplace build me one, this one, it's freshly machined, fresh bores, fresh pistons, fresh deck, and I am going to be building it. That's either the smartest thing I've ever done or the stupidest thing I've ever done. Because right now we don't have an option. If this engine doesn't work, then that's no good, because this car is not mine anymore, technically. We gotta give it away. Before we do that, we gotta get it running. We gotta get it ripping. We gotta have some fun with it. There's not really a whole lot to say. This is our old engine. We're taking the crank out of this one and using it in the new motor. That's the first thing we gotta do. We gotta take the crank out. Then we gotta measure all the bottom end clearances in the new motor. Once that's done, assemble everything with new bearings, new assembly lube. We got a new oil pump for it. We got a bunch of new gaskets. The head's been refreshed. But if you kept up the series, you already know all that. So without any further ado, let's just get started. So we got the crank out, we got the oil squirters out, and we got the bearings for the balance shaft delete out. We're gonna reuse all that stuff. So we can say goodbye to this block. I don't know if it's gonna be scrap metal or maybe a table or something, but goodbye to this block and then get the new one onto the stand. So pretty much what we were doing there, we were deleting the balance shaft. And in order to do that, you have to block the oil passages to the balance shaft, otherwise the motor's not gonna make any no pressure. So we pretty much just press the bearings out, then flip them around so the holes don't line up, press them back in, and now oil can't come out of those bearings. So we're ready to go ahead and put the crank in. Now obviously before we do the final assembly, we're gonna put lube on everything, but for measuring the clearances, you actually want it to be dry. So we're gonna clean the crank off, put the crank in, put some plastic gauge in, put the caps on, torque it down, take it out, and measure. Whoa! So happy right now. For the first time ever, we did something and it was better than it was before. The crank clearances with the new, slightly bigger bearings are better. They're still a little loose, but they're within acceptable tolerances to run. So that's freaking awesome. So now what we're gonna do, take the crank back out, clean everything again, lube it up, put the crank in, and torque it to spec. Need some Pennzoil. You need a little bucket to pour it in. You want to take out one of the
little ones?
Yeah. Oh god. Oh, there's a hole in them, bro. What kind of poor design is that?
Everybody in the comments is like, I see the yellow Jeep's back. Who would have guessed?
I'm glad we got this thing nice and oily and disgusting for no reason. Because it makes sense that they've got holes in them, so. Dip it in oil, and kind of wipe it off. Just enough oil to lube it up. One thing we're gonna do, just to make sure we don't forget anything, is we're gonna mark every bolt that we torque. So that way, you know, at the end we can be like, oh, yep, all those are torqued down. Just an attempt to make me sleep a little bit better at night, but I'm not gonna sleep well until these things are running. Nice looking bearing right there, my friends. You're a good boy. Gotta be honest, they're looking pretty good. So we measured all the rod clearances and they're all good, better with the standard size bearings. So now we got to file all the rings, and then we can put the pistons on the rods and put the rod and pistons in. This is when things get a little bit more challenging. If you didn't know, there's 3 rings. Technically, you could say there's 5 rings. There's the oil ring, which stops the oil from coming up. There's the second compression ring, and then the first compression ring. You don't really gap the oil ring. You do gap the second ring and the top ring. Pretty much what you're doing is you're grinding down the ring so that once it heats up and expands, it doesn't butt into itself and crack. Because obviously if that happened, you're losing compression. So you take the ring, top side up, bring it to the cylinder that you're measuring. So this is our first piston, our first cylinder bore. Got to put it in there. Then you gotta kind of square it up with the piston. Take our feeler gauges. Wiseco has a chart that you can pretty much use to calculate what your piston gap is going to be. Feeler gauge, that's about that size. Look at that, it's actually bigger than this already. So you keep on going up in size until it kind of gets caught in the gap. So that was 0.22 inch. The second ring, the gap is a little bit bigger than we might want, but it's not crazy out of spec, so that'll be fine. We won't have to grind the second ring. Just put the top ring in here. Nope. Might be maybe closer to 0.13. Okay, so we have to grind about 1.5 thou off of the end of the ring. I feel like a mad scientist doing this. Like, this is a test ring, so I don't ruin our nice properly sized ring. So I got it in the little filer. Oh god. Okay, note to self, don't pull it out too much. There you go, learning. Didn't tighten it enough either. So as you see, according to this, we grinded 64 thou off.
Oh.
Yikes. Let's see, this is why you have practice runs.
Yeah.
All right, let's shut it off. And, oh, yikes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thou already. Okay, so maybe this thing grinds a little faster than I was expecting. The other thing that you want to watch while you're grinding rings is that you're grinding it so that the ends butt together parallelly. And as you can tell, I didn't do that. So I'm actually gonna grind this until I get it parallel. It's got little adjustments to help you do that.
Look at that. So this is the real one?
This is the real one. So I'm just gonna do like a, you know? A little All right, let's see what that did. No. So now, zit.
Wait, whoa. You
What?
already went. Zit. So maybe you shouldn't do 4 more.
Well, a zit did like nothing, and we need to go up 2,000. So a zit should be in the ballpark. We're building motors with zits and hopes and dreams.
That last one sounded a little thick. This can't be.
Oh no. Well, we went a little over, but oops. To be fair, I'm sitting here, I think I was using, because we're not high performance street, we are street moderate turbo. Turbo is the big difference. So the turbo, actually, you get a bigger gap. All right, next one. All the rings are filed. All the top rings are around 17 thou. All the bottoms around 22. Before I put the rings onto the pistons, I'm gonna put the pistons onto the rods. So we take a wrist pin, lube her up. At least put a little lube. Put the wrist pin in, still a little bit. The wrist pin in the rest of the way. So the wrist pin's in. There are these clips that clip the wrist pin in. There we go. Boom! You can go back and forth, you can go up and down, but it's locked in. And the orientation is correct. So, I'm gonna have to do that 3 more times. Pistons are on the rods. Now we have to put the rings onto the pistons. Wiseco gives you a chart of where all the end gaps should go, so that's awesome. The scary thing is that obviously getting a circle around a bigger, like you gotta kind of spread it open and then put it back in. And so there's a chance you can bend them or break them. A little scary. So we're just gonna take this slowly but surely. We're gonna do them from the bottom up. So we'll put the bottom, the oil rings in, then the second ring, and then the top ring. Going in. Line up the end gap, which I've lost. Okay, there it is. Oil expander, oil bottom rail. All right. This is really rewarding. Still nerve-wracking, but it's pretty fun. Now I'll take the bottom ring. Voila. Okay. Voila. This one is done. So, we've got all the rings on all the pistons, which means all this is ready to go into this. Kind of a nerve-wracking part. Every part's a nerve-wracking part, I guess, if it's their first time. Real quick, let me take a moment to thank this video sponsor, SimpliSafe. SimpliSafe is an award-winning security system with cutting-edge technology that is backed by highly trained 24/7 monitoring professionals ready to send the police to help you when you're in need. Now, as you guys might know, I got SimpliSafe for the shop almost a year ago at this point. The reason why I got it in the first place was because I mean, look at this place. It's freaking awesome. There's lots of really awesome tools and cars and all sorts of good, important, valuable stuff in here that I wanted to protect. I was able to set up my SimpliSafe security system here and at my house. You know, we're talking indoor cameras, outdoor cameras, smart locks, motion detectors, entry sensors. I was able to install all of that in like less than an hour with simple hand tools. It could not have been easier. It's not just the setup that's easy either. You can personalize your security system to your needs and you'll get it shipped directly to your door. Now, the other thing that gives me peace of mind is having their 24/7 home monitoring protection. At all times, both my house and my shop are monitored by SimpliSafe agents ready to dispatch police, firefighters, EMTs. Now the great part about that, less than $1 a day, which is less than half the cost of traditional security systems. And the other thing is that there are no long-term contracts. Now if you guys are interested, you can save 20% on your SimpliSafe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month for free. Visit simplisafe.com/Gingium to learn more. And yet again, huge thank you to SimpliSafe for sponsoring this video. So now, obviously the pistons, they fit into the cylinders just fine, but the problem is that the rings, uncompressed, don't fit. As you can tell, rings don't fit, right? So you have to compress the rings while pushing the piston into that, and they make a little tool for that. This is a cheaper version that's, you know, it works. They've got, you know, billet machined ones and all sorts of crazy stuff. For now, that's gonna work. Pretty much put this over this, tighten it, and we get it all lined up, and boop, pop the piston in there. Before we do that, take some Pennzoil, oil up the cylinders a little bit, just to get some lube in there. Voila! Woo! Pistons and rods are in. The ring compressor, the cheap one, sucks, but we kind of figured it out by the end. I'm gonna go ahead and flip the motor over. The bottom end's assembled. We got the pistons and rods in, everything's worked down, all lubed up. Turns over really nicely. There's some resistance, which is good, because, you know, the rings are actually fitted because it's the proper bore size. You know, that motor, you can turn it over just by hand. It almost like coast. But this one, I can't even turn it over by hand. One thing we do have to do is paint this thing, because it's rusty and ugly. Don't know when we're gonna do that, but at some point during this process, we will paint it. There's a couple different directions we could go from here. I think I'm gonna go ahead and put the head on. All we really gotta do is clean it all up. There's a little bit of dust in there. Slap the ARP studs on, drop the head on. Head gasket. I know a lot of people said last time that we should be using a multi-liter steel head gasket, but I've had bad experiences with those head gaskets. If the mating surface isn't perfect, they're gonna start leaking. That's what happened to the last motor. And for the amount of power we're making, composite head gasket will be plenty. If you don't remember, we've got now upgraded valve train, new valve seals and everything in this head, along with upgraded cams, so that's gonna be sweet. Reverse, reverse! So that's the front of the motor. block the hole a little bit. You can hear it making compression. And watch, if I cover it. So yeah, compression.
Put a ping pong ball over it. Kind of.
Yeah, not quite as far. But yeah, big compression. Obviously, since nothing's broken in, it's nothing crazy. But with the head on, I think now we can go ahead and work on these front accessories. We got a brand new oil pump, because I ain't taking any chances with this motor. We already went ahead and put the balance shaft delete on there. So, normally there's a big old balance shaft here. Deleted that, plugged all the stuff in the block. Fresh oil seal, fresh gasket there. Let's put this thing on, eh? Pour a little bit of oil down the pickup tube, get it into the oil pump. Once the motor's totally fully assembled, before we put the timing belt on, I'm gonna spin the oil pump a bunch, just with like an impact, just to get motor everywhere before we put it into the car. But this will help with that process. like it's been a while since I updated you guys. The motor is almost done. We got the turbo on, we got the cams, the valve train in. We even got some of the water stuff on. Now we're gonna go ahead and put on the intake manifold. We got some fancy new gaskets. These are thermal gaskets. Provides a heat barrier between the engine and the intake manifold so it doesn't get as hot. Going on there. Color scheme to match the rest of the car. Red and black, baby. Red and black. Woo! to put this on the oil pump and just spin it until stuff starts coming out here. Hopefully not spray myself in the face, you know? Oh, there we are, look at that. That's crazy. It works. I think that's good. So that means oil should be everywhere. Should be in the turbo, should be in the oil cooler, should be in the oil filter. There, we can crack it loose just to see. Sure enough, it's oil. So as soon as this thing cranks up, it's gonna have oil pressure. No risk of damaging the bearings or anything like that. Timing cover, and then rest of the little stuff. As long as I'm not forgetting anything, our 500 horsepower capable, built bottom end, mildly built top end, 4G63 is done. Turns over nicely. It sounds like it's making compression. Definitely nervous, but I mean, it looks freaking sweet. Now what we can go ahead and do is we can take it off the engine stand, put the flywheel, the clutch on, put the trans on, and then it's time to put it back into the car. It's crazy to think that this was the same thing that went into the car earlier. It looks totally different. This is now officially, I think, the best looking motor I've ever built. And I actually built it, bottom end up, block up, I should say. And I know you guys probably want to see it run, but we've got a lot more work to do, and this is already a long video. So the next video, we're throwing it in the car, we're getting it running, and we're getting it driving. Hopefully everything goes smoothly. I've done everything I could possibly think of to make sure it does go smoothly, but we haven't had very good luck with our 4Gs, but no, I built it, we did it right, it's gonna be good. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. If you wanted to learn something, I certainly learned a lot. I can't wait. If this goes well, I can't wait to build more motors. Anyway, if you guys wanna watch the next video ahead of schedule, you can click up there and become a patron. Get early access to videos and access to a bunch of exclusive content. Gonna be doing more stuff on Patreon soon. So if you're interested in supporting the channel, that really, really helps. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in a bit. Thank you so much to Simply Safe yet again for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you guys, bye-bye. See you guys, bye-bye. Bye-bye.